so I can just edit it out because for some reason I've been having to steal the hello from previous podcasts. So anyway, all right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my
Can
co-host
you feel
Sully
the
tonight.
excitement? It's the start of
The
the
N-
NBA Cup, baby. Let's go.
the the Emirates NBA Cup.
I will say, other than the Boston Celtics floor, the floors have not been as hurtful to my eyes, Mike. I don't know how much you've paid attention to the floors, but I remember last year that was a big complaint that we had that the floors were making our eyes slightly bleed. So other than Boston's, I've been okay.
Yeah, I don't mind the floors. Where are you at with the NBA Cup?
Well, if the Cavs weren't 12-0, I probably would care more. Let's be honest. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm. It's to me, it is what it is. I kind of hope that. I mean, part of me doesn't want part of me wants the Cavs to lose on Friday, so that they don't have to play an extra game. And maybe last year when I was like thinking they were going to win the NBA Cup, Mike, I was all for it. But now that we're 12-0, and I feel, but at the same time, I don't want them to lose. So I don't know. I play the games. Boston being in our thing and losing tonight is kind of big, right? Like so, um, and and the Hawks winning by 1 point. Like I don't know. Did you see the other goofy thing that happened tonight, Mike, with the
Pistons Heat.
Heat? The
Yeah,
Heat,
no timeout, no
no
timeout. Called
timeouts,
the
and
timeout with
then
no
who's
timeout.
sitting courtside? Jalen Rose, like in Detroit, and
Well,
they
at least it
show him up,
wasn't. At least it wasn't. At least it wasn't Weber.
and he was like this. Jalen Rose is like this when it happened. He's like, I don't know if I've been. He's probably having. He got taken back 30 years and traumatic memories, but I don't know. It's just some bizarre things happened. Bizarre things are happening in the NBA, but I don't know. I'm where I'm at with the NBA Cup is I really don't care. But if the Cavs were to like go 4-0 in the NBA Cup, I mean, when you look at it, the only team in our bracket, I mean, the only team in our bracket is Boston. They've already got a loss. I mean, and Atlanta beat them without Trae Young. Like, what's they must have thought that they were going to be pushovers or something and came into the game. And it's huge. It's huge for the Cavs. It's huge for the Cavs because now I mean, I know we're 12-0, and obviously that's going to end at some point. But having a nice 3-game lead right now to start, it's a good start. It's a good it's a good footing. So I don't know, where are you at with the NBA Cup, Mike?
It's a good question. I think if you would have asked me today at noon, I probably would have said, "Eh, I don't really care. I'm not." I guess I would be sort of agnostic about it. But then when I saw that the Hawks and Celtics game was close, I started looking at it. I didn't watch any of it, but I just had it on the game cast as I was sitting there with my family. And I'm paying attention. I'm like, oh, come on, the Hawks got to win this game. And so I guess it's sucked me in a way that the NBA has wanted to suck fans in, that maybe these regular season games mean just a teeny tiny bit more. Like if that had just been a regular Celtics Hawks games, obviously I probably would have been rooting for the Hawks to win. But for some
Well, you
reason, the
wanted the
NBA
Hawks to
Cup,
lose that game, Mike.
I'm sorry.
You didn't get a point. You didn't get a point in your little bracket, your little
I don't.
NBA total.
The our NBA win totals is probably secondary to whatever the Cavs can do. And again, not that a Celtics loss in November really makes that much of a difference, but there was something extra that the NBA Cup game gave it tonight. There was just a little bit more to it than what it would have been had it been just a regular season Hawks Celtics game. So I don't know if that means I'm in on the NBA Cup. I'm slightly higher than agnostic on the NBA Cup or where I'm at, but I know that when I watched that game that I factored in, oh, that helps the Cavs to win the NBA Cup. And again, does that really matter? Probably not, but there was something in me that was triggered with the fact that, hey, this is something that my team can win. So I guess in that respect, I guess I would have to say I'm in on the NBA Cup, at least as of right now. Probably until the Cavs get eliminated from the NBA Cup, and then I will probably be whatever. So
Yeah. So let's dive into the Cavaliers, Mike. We've got to dive in here. Cavs
right.
are 12. Oh, real quick. NBA totals draft right now, Mike. The tide has swung in favor of me. I am at 98. You are at 95. So I'm up by 3. It's a close
So
battle.
that's a 6 game swing from last week, right? Wasn't I up
Yeah.
3? I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's current. That's as current as when the Knicks game ended. I updated it. So it's looking slightly better for me. The big one, obviously, I have the Cavs. The only double digiter. Your big letdown right now, and my big letdown are the Bucks, and your big letdown are the Philadelphia 76ers, Mike.
Well, I have Pelicans wins. That's not looking good right now. That one is
Yeah.
looking a little. That one's looking a little shaky. And
Your Philly wins is shaky, man.
I have Philly win. Philly wins is very shaky. I'm just saying that one's obviously shaky. I'm just trying to pick out some other ones that are maybe
Well,
moderately
so those are the only ones that are
shaky.
bad. Really, your Mavs
Yeah.
wins are your Mavs wins the next lowest one. I mean, what's catapulting me right now is that I have Boston and I have the Cavs, and
Right.
even with the Boston's loss tonight, and I have the Suns too. I got the
You got
Suns
Denver.
late.
You got Denver too. You got Denver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suns wins. Suns wins in the second half of the draft. That's looking like a pretty. That's a pretty solid
Well,
pick right
I got
now.
the Cavs in the mid, man. The Cavs in the mid right
Yeah.
now.
That's true.
So we'll see.
That's true.
So the Cavs, like, listen, they're gonna lose eventually, as I said before. They can't go 82-0. Like, I don't know. I someone at work and I were talking about this before they won yesterday. I saw Monday yesterday in the morning, and I'm sitting here thinking, obviously, I want the Cavs to win as many games as possible, but part of me doesn't want them to get to the point where we're thinking we're going to get to 73-9.
Yeah, come on, man. That's not realistic.
Well, I listen. I'm not thinking it's. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's realistic. What I'm saying is, what I don't want to have happen is we get to game 25 and we're 24-1 or 23-2. I mean, do I want them to be that record? Yes, but part of me is slightly concerned. But what I will say is, I love what Kenny Atkinson's been doing with the lineups. I like that he is not unlike our former presidente in charge, Mr. JB Bickerstaff. He's been willing to like go to lineups that are like out of the ordinary. Been doing things that are like fantastic. Like that lineup, like two nights ago, he went to a lineup which had like 3 reserves, Darius Garland, and then last night the lineup with the 5 reserves because the Stars were just they were clearly looking, their legs were dead, they were tired. And dude, Ty Jerome, that guy right there, that's Ricky Rubio 2.0. That guy. I'm ready to. He might be better than Ricky Rubio was 2 years ago before he tore his ACL. Just because he's younger and plays better defense than Ricky Rubio. That guy is Jose Alvarado if Jose Alvarado could play offense. Okay, he's all over the place. There were 2 or 3 steals he's had in the last 2 games that he like sneaks up behind him, but not like the Jose Alvarado, like I'm hiding in the corner and then sneaking up behind you. He's like literally, when you catch the ball and you turn to do something with it, he's there. And he doesn't have to play 25 minutes to be effective. He can play the 15, 17 minutes. Karis LeVert has been fantastic this year. He's like, but once again, Kenny Atkinson worked with Karis LeVert already. So he has a familiarity. Jared Allen clearly is hurt. And, 2 games ago, he was pitiful. And you and I were texting. He's god awful. And then last night he looked better, but then at the end of the game he got hurt, which I think was for the better and ended up working in our favor that he wasn't in the stretch. But before that he had been very good. Like I'm not trying to like bash Jared Allen. Evan Mobley in the game 2 nights, or not last night, but on Saturday night, he was clearly the best. Like I know Garland won Eastern Conference Player of the Week, and he carried us down the home stretch. But Mobley was clearly the best player on both ends of the floor that whole game on Saturday. Like he was just all over the place, like offensively, defensively, forcing turnovers, rotations. They just look like a team that I wouldn't want to play in a 7-game series right now, Mike. I'm like, and I know it's early. Once again, we're what we're not even a seventh through. We're more than we're about a seventh through the season. Okay, we've played the most games. We've played the most games in the NBA in the 20-day stretch. We played 12 games in 20 days. Our our guys, I heard a stat, Mike. I don't know if you heard the same stat, that the Cavs have the elite only have 2 rest advantage days in our first 40 games. Did you hear that stat?
I did not hear that.
So the 2 rest advantage days that we have in our first 40 games are tomorrow and Friday. That's it. After that, we either have the same amount of rest as the team are playing or less rest. And we've already had less. We've already had. We've had the most back-to-back so far in the NBA, and so. What does that mean now? I don't know that means much now, but it's going to mean something in the future. Like we're clearly playing more games. The NBA schedule was not super kind to us, I guess is what I'm really saying. Um, but ultimately, what matters is right now they're clicking. I fully anticipate them winning tomorrow against the 76ers because the 76ers aren't going to have Embiid. On Friday, we're home against Chicago. I would like to think, Jared Allen's questionable for tomorrow, and Sam Merrill is questionable. And Merrill's been huge too, by the way. He's been great. He's not shooting the ball super well, but he creates enough opportunities and enough movement to get people off. Teams have to worry about him. So I don't know. I just think the Cavs are in a really, really good spot right now. And if they can just keep winning, I mean, and being competitive, they are so much fun to watch. I was really mad they didn't get me free fries though today. I was really kind of pissed about that because they didn't get to 120 points. They ended up 119 last night.
Yes.
119, 118. They just were shy. There was like a 2-minute stretch where they didn't score, and I was like, oh man, they're screwing me out of my free fries. Anyways, the Cavs are doing great. I'm really, really excited about how they're playing, and I just hope they can continue this.
Okay, so I think there's a bunch of factors that when you look at this Cavaliers team, what has enabled them to get off to a 12-0 start. I think number one, if you look at the improvement, and these are things that we talked about last week when they were 8-0 or whatever they were when we podcasted, but you look at the way Darius Garland has been playing. Clearly, we talked about that a lot already, but he is so much more a superior version of Garland than what he was last year after the broken jaw and all the just traumatic things that he went through last season. So the fact that Darius Garland is back to being Darius Garland just gives Kenny Atkinson a tool in his toolbox to be able to either play Mitchell and Garland together, or when one of them sits, the other one runs the team, and it gives you 48 minutes of all-star level point guard play. So that's, I think, a huge factor. The improvement of Evan Mobley, again, is he getting to where you and I would love to see him as quickly as we would love to see him get there? I still think probably not. But has he been better? Has he been more forceful? Has he been more impactful? Is his handle better? Is he able to make what seems like more plays in big moments? Yes. Is he still every bit as good defensively as he's been the last couple of years? Absolutely. So I think the improvement of Garland and Mobley has been a huge factor in this team's success early on in the season. We've already talked about that. Kenny Atkinson obviously goes without saying that what he's been able to do, you mentioned it in terms of playing different lineups. And I just think that the way that he's been able to open up the offense, and whether it's him or whether it's the players or whatever it is, but getting the four main guys to, I don't know if buy in is the right way to phrase it, but to believe in the way that Kenny Atkinson wants to play, that at any given moment, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley can take a step back offensively, primarily Mitchell and Garland, to let the other guy sort of have the floor and take control of the offense. I mean, it's been clear that in certain games, Garland's had the hot hand and Mitchell stepped back. In other games, Mitchell's had the hot hand and Garland stepped back. And again, part of that is JB Bickerstaff didn't always have the luxury of having both of those guys playing at the level that they're playing at right now. But it does feel like there's a buy-in into the Kenny Atkinson system and the ball movement and the pace that they're playing with, which makes a huge difference. Those are all things that we talked about last week in terms of the Cavs' hot start. I think there's some other factors too, and it goes back to a little bit of what you said in terms of the lineups. I think the fact that Donovan Mitchell's averaging the most minutes per game on this team right now, he's just a shade under 31 minutes a game. And there's 10 guys that are playing at least, let me see, I think the least number of minutes in the top 10 is Ty Jerome, your guy, averaging 16 and a half minutes. And to your point, he's been tremendous off the bench, both as a defensive nuisance and also as a guy that just has come up with big play after big play. I think that, is he going to be as good as he's been over the first 12 games over the course of the season? Man, if he was, I mean, he's averaging 10 points a game in 16 minutes, playing 16 minutes. And it's not like he's a guy who's just coming out there and chucking. He's a guy who's playing team basketball and just he's shooting the ball really, really well. And he's been a driving force for the Cavs substitutions and their bench units. But I just like the fact that you have 10 guys who are all averaging at least 16 minutes per game. And getting Merrill involved has been huge for the Cavs this year. I think Isaac Okoro clearly has a role. Dean Wade clearly has a role, like we talked about. I still feel like that's the spot, the Okoro, Wade, Niang. I mean, we've been saying it for a long time that 3-and-D wing spot is the one spot probably where, if you look at a hole in this roster in terms of personnel, that's probably the biggest hole. But each one of those guys, whether you're talking about Jerome, Niang, Merrill, Okoro, Wade, they each have certain things that they do well, and dependent upon the matchup and dependent upon the lineups that the other teams are putting out there, Kenny Atkinson has been pushing the right buttons in terms of who can be out there on the floor. So I like the depth that this team has. And then I know we're probably going to talk about injuries around the league at some point, but the fact that the Cavs have, to this point through 12 games of the season, avoided any major injuries, especially to their big four, I think that's played a big role in what this team has been. And then I think back to the tweet. Which game did you tweet out that JB Bickerstaff's Cavs would have definitely lost this game? Which game? Do you remember which game you tweeted that out
Oh, you
about?
saw that tweet? That was a good tweet.
That was a great tweet. I forget which
Let's see.
game.
Um, that was on 11-4, the game before New Orleans.
So I have the schedule. I have the schedule pulled up.
Was it against the Bucks? Was the Bucks game the second? It was the second Bucks game when Giannis didn't play and we played terrible in the third quarter.
Correct. So I think that tweet and that sentiment goes a long way too towards explaining the improvement in this team. And I think it's just a
I tweeted that before the game, Mike. I tweeted that before the game. I retweet. It was when I retweeted Tom Withers' tweet saying Giannis is out for the Bucks tonight, and I wrote JB's Cavs find a way to lose this game. Let's see how Kenny does.
Okay, well there you go. So I think that they proved that, right? That's a game that they very easily could have lost. I think the Chicago game last night, they were down, I don't know what, 8 in the middle of the third quarter maybe, and that's a case where I think previous iterations of this team, we saw them collapse and fall apart in those kinds of moments, probably a little bit too often for my taste. And now it just feels like they have a confidence. And it also feels like because Garland is back to being Garland, that they have more than just, well, we got to get Donovan going. He's got to be on fire if we're going to make this 8-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Or if we're going to be able to hold this lead, Mitchell has to have a big fourth quarter. Now it's like, okay, Mitchell can have a big fourth quarter, but Garland could have a big fourth quarter. Mobley's had some big quarters. And then you've got the shooting that you have off the bench. And it just feels like they have a lot of guys contributing and they're not as reliant on Donovan Mitchell. And the fact that they play in the Eastern Conference is a huge factor when you start talking about how many games can this team win. I mean, I think it's preposterous to think that they would even be able to approach 70 wins, but at this point, you've already banked 12 wins. I think before the season, if you'd have told me that this Cavs team was going to sniff being able to maybe win 60 games, I think I would have said you were crazy. I think you probably wouldn't have believed that, even though you said that you thought the Cavs could get to the Eastern Conference Finals, which I kind of poo-pooed that. And and yet right now you're sitting here and you're looking at it and going, okay, they got to win 48 more games, and that seems eminently that seems eminently doable to get to 60, especially when you consider where the Eastern Conference sits right now. So I've been super impressed with everything that this team is doing. I mean, collectively, I was just looking at their statistics. As a team, they're shooting 52% from the floor and they're shooting 41% from three. I mean, if this team's going to shoot 52% from the floor and 41% from three for the entire season, well, guess what? They're going to win 60 games. Now, I don't know if that can continue, but if it does, man, I mean, you're talking about a team that's going 50-40. They're only shooting 75% from the line, but
They're also not
man,
going to the line, Mike. They're
no, not
26th in the NBA in shooting free throws.
well, they got a lot of jump shooters. And again, as good as Mobley and Allen are, they're not the physical guys. And you don't, again, this is where the big wing, right? This is where not having one of those big physical wing guys where your best player is a 6'8" wing. Those are the guys that tend to get lots of fouls, right? Those are the
Yeah,
guys
well,
that get to the
I'm gonna
line
push back
8 to
slightly
10
though
times.
because I'm gonna push back slightly though because while we are 26th in the league in free throws, we're like sixth in the league in drives to the basket.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that our guys aren't necessarily looking to seek Darius Garland isn't going in there trying to seek contact. He's driving to the basket and trying to finish with floaters and shots off the glass and weird angles. Mobley, as good as he is, he's not going in there looking to draw contact and score 3-point plays. I mean, he's looking to most of the time, I would say, avoid contact. Jared Allen's probably not avoiding contact, but he's also not getting enough field goal attempts. And I even feel like Donovan, for as physical as he is, a lot of times when he drives, right, he's trying to Euro step or he's just, it feels like he just gets right around guys. And they don't have a player who seeks contact, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. There's been and I will say this. I'm another positive about Kenny Atkinson. He'll complain to refs, but he's not yelling at them the whole game. Like we're not talking like
Right.
JB yelling.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I
the,
don't miss that. I don't miss that. I do not miss that on the Cavs sideline. There's no question. And look, JB obviously is doing a good job with the Pistons. I mean, he's turned Detroit around. It seems like he's putting Jaden Ivey out on the court, which is something that Monty Williams couldn't figure out that might be a good idea. And Cade Cunningham's off to a really good start. So, look, uh, JB Bickerstaff is probably a solid to maybe a slightly above average NBA coach. But I think with this team, he had sort of, I don't know if
Run
worn
its
out is
course.
welcome, but yeah, it had run its course with JB, and I just think Atkinson, by bringing in a different style of offense, a faster pace, and it just feels like he's instilled the confidence in this team that, for whatever reason, however you want to blame it on, you want to blame it on Garland's injury and the fact that he wasn't always healthy. Mitchell kind of had the knee soreness toward the second half of the season. I don't know what to attribute it to, but definitely it feels like there's a new vibe around this team. And I think the other thing that maybe is underrated too is, you think back to last season, right? And there was, how much speculation was there during the season that Donovan Mitchell was going to leave the Cavs, that he wanted out. And he never came out and said it. And you and I kept talking about this, that the national media all came out with the story during the season that Donovan Mitchell is gone from Cleveland. He wants to leave Cleveland. And you and I kept saying that anybody that we've heard locally talk about it, or anything that Donovan Mitchell has ever said, would lead you to believe that he was going to stay. And so there was this narrative nationally that he wanted to leave, and yet locally, that wasn't the case at all. But still, there has to be something with having a guy who's your franchise player with an uncertain future with your team, that now that the fact that he's been locked up for an additional, 3 years, that takes some pressure off. Plus, Evan Mobley signs the extension. So now you have the fact that all these guys, now look, you could trade, somebody could get traded tomorrow, but the fact that all these guys are locked up on long-term contracts and they've now played together for 2 seasons, certainly that continuity makes this team even more dangerous. And the fact that they all know that they're going to be here, there's as much certainty with this team being here for the next couple of years as you could possibly have in professional sports. Again, that's not to say that one of them couldn't get traded at any moment, but as far as certainty in professional sports, especially the way they're playing, it has to feel like this team's going to be together for a couple more years.
All right, so we're gonna do it now, Mike. We're gonna look at the schedule, and you and
Okay.
I are gonna predict when the Cavs get their first loss.
Okay.
Okay, tomorrow at 76ers.
They're going to win that game.
That's a win. Friday at home against the Bulls.
It's a win.
Sunday at home against the Hornets.
That's a win. Brandon Miller tonight, by the way, 3 for 18 for the
He's
Hornets. 1 of
it,
11 from three. It was a rough go for Brandon Miller tonight.
yeah.
But LaMelo went for another 30-point game. LaMelo's probably averaging 30 a game now. He was just a tick under 30, I think, before tonight.
Yep. Tuesday, prime time on TNT. NBA Cup game against the Boston Celtics. Is that it? Are they 14? Are they going into that game 15-0 and they're losing?
Well, so here's the thing. I think that's probably more likely a loss than a win. But I also think that if you go in there 15-0, that's going to be a game that the Cavs are going to really, really want. I don't know what Boston's mentality will necessarily be for that game, but I got to believe that the Cavs are going to come into that game motivated, wanting to win it for a number of reasons. One, especially if they come in 15-0, they're going to want to keep the streak alive. Two, as the Eastern Conference is setting up right now, barring some major injuries or something really, really fluky happening for the rest of the season, it seems fairly likely that Boston and the Cavs are going to be the 1 and 2 seeds. So there's going to be the Cavs maybe, and the Celtics may want to use that game to send whatever type of message that those teams might want to send to each other.
Yeah.
I feel like Boston's going to be up for that game. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably
Well, so
I feel like
here's
that's
what
probably
I'm
the
going to
first
say,
loss.
Mike. If the Cavs
Yeah.
win that game next Tuesday, they're going 20-0. Because after that, they play the Pelicans, who are all injured. Literally, their starting lineup is injured. You're playing
There's nobody left.
You're playing the bummy Raptors.
Yep.
And then you play a home and home against Atlanta.
Then you could have. I mean, if they,
and then
okay.
you know who we play after that?
I know Boston at
Boston
home.
again.
So if you play Boston at 15-0 in the NBA Cup on Tuesday the 19th, and you win that game, and then you keep winning, and you get to Boston at home, and you're 20-0 on Sunday, the December 1st, that game's going to be crazy. And then after that, I mean, you play the Wizards, then you have a home game against Denver, then you're at Charlotte, at Miami, against Milwaukee, against Philadelphia, against Utah. I mean, and then they go out west, which I think then you probably whatever. If by
Listen,
some stroke of fortune, look, they should come through the next 15 games
13-2.
13-2, 12-3, somewhere in there. And so then you're looking at their 24-3 or whatever it might be.
And you know that's putting them right on pace, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look,
the 24-3 literally puts them right on pace, right?
It does. However, the caveat there is, look, and I know because we're an Eastern Conference team, you're going to play a lot more Eastern Conference opponents. But if you look through that point at the schedule, they have not played really anybody who is near the top of the Western Conference except for the Warriors and the Nuggets at that point. They'll have played Denver. I mean, they're done with Denver. They play them on Friday the 27th. And that'll be their second game with the Nuggets. They'll be done with Denver, and then the very next game on the 30th, they play Golden State. So you'll have your two Denver games.
That's a murder 3 games right there, Mike. Nuggets, Warriors, Lakers. That's going to be a fun 3 games.
And then Dallas. That's a road trip right there. At Denver, at Golden State, at LA, at Dallas. That's a tough road trip. Although they go Denver, then you have 2 days off. Then you go back-to-back, Golden State and the Lakers. So I guess if you're getting anybody back-to-back out of those 4, you probably want the Lakers in the second night of your back-to-back. Who knows? I mean, look, because this team's in the Eastern Conference, they're going to beat up on a lot of bad teams, and that's going to allow them to continue to win games. The caveat, just like with every NBA team, as we're seeing around the league right now, you have to remain healthy. I mean, the Cavs
that's a great segue.
Where the Cavs, which let me just say this last thing. The Cavs, because of the roster problem that we've been discussing for 2 years now, the redundancy of Mitchell and Garland and the redundancy of Allen and Mobley, what's weird is that with the bench playing as well as it has to this point, the Cavs could probably withstand an injury to one of those big 4 and I don't want to say completely not miss a beat, but they would at least have a replacement guy who could do maybe a little bit more in the place of whoever it was that got injured. So I think the Cavs are in really, really good position, partly because of how well they're playing and because of Kenny Atkinson's system and the confidence that they've developed. I think the Eastern Conference is a big factor. And look, with the number of injuries around the league, there's lots of teams that are significantly weaker today than they were 2 weeks ago. So let's jump around and talk about some of those injuries and leave the Cavs behind us. But man, what a start for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah. All right. So there are a lot of teams that have injuries right now. And I'm trying to pull up the Shams text, the tweet, because he put a tweet out like 2 days ago with all the injuries. So if I can find it. I thought I sent it to you, but I can't find it. But there's a lot. So we've got obviously Embiid's been out. Okay. We got Zion, who's out for an extended period of time. We got Aaron Gordon out. We've got currently we added Kevin Durant to that in this week. Chet Holmgren, Devin Vassell. Anthony Davis is dealing with a minor injury. Chet Chet's obviously out. He's out 8 to 10 weeks. Jose Alvarado's added to the list. So like right now, Jose Alvarado, the New Orleans is Jose Alvarado, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, DeJounte Murray, C.J. McCollum, and Jordan Hawkins all out.
Yeah,
And
it's
Mike,
crazy. I mean,
Mike, did anyone call you
250?
today? Are you available to stand in the corner and shoot a three?
I don't know. I might be a better option than what the Pelicans have. I don't know. Look, it's just it's crazy. The Pelican situation is really unbelievable. I mean, Zion, it's
We said it
it,
last week, Mike, when they said that he was questionable with a hamstring, and um, they said you said whenever he's questionable with a hamstring issue, you don't feel really good about it, and now here
no,
we
you
are.
don't. Well, okay, so I still feel pretty good about Zion getting to 250 games and me collecting on that bet. But at this point, I mean, it's hard to imagine that Zion Williamson is ever going to have the career that people anticipated that he was going to have. I mean, you think about last season, right? He plays, I think, 70 games. He gets to the play-in. He's just throttling the Lakers in that game. I texted you during the middle of that game. Do you remember my text?
No, I don't remember what you said.
I just said Zion is still probably the most fun guy to watch in the league. I mean, he was literally destroying the Lakers and going at will to the rim. And 3 minutes to go, the Pelicans are about to beat the Lakers, and Zion scores, and he's running back down court, and boom, holds the hamstring, done. And this is a season where he played pretty much healthy throughout the entire season. And he wasn't honestly as good last season as he had been in the past. And now you start to look at it and you're like, everybody talked this summer that he was in the best shape he had ever been in. And he comes in, and now here we are 10 games into the season, and he's already out again. And at a certain point, like he's been in the league 6 years. Like it's no longer like at some point his potential and what he could be, I mean, at some point it starts to fade. Like it just a guy that is his size with his athleticism. And I'm not saying that his career's over, but for what the promise of Zion Williamson was when he came out of Duke versus what he's produced on the floor, I mean, it's going to be one of the NBA's biggest what if careers in the history of the league if this guy can never stay healthy for complete seasons and ever make a real run in the playoffs with a contending team because I mean it's just sad. One of the most exciting players to come into the league probably ever when you think about just the highlight reels that the guy was able to manufacture and what a unique player he was. And it's just a shame that we're looking at it and it's 6 years in and he's played 190 games. I mean, he's going to get to 250, but I just don't think his career is ever going to reach the heights that we certainly thought it was when we were doing, you
Yep.
know, Zion opening night podcast. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So, what former Pelican led the Hawks to over victory tonight?
Dyson Daniels.
Well, okay. What other former Pelican and
Larry
former
Nance.
Cap? Larry Nance. You know what Larry Nance's stat line was tonight, Mike?
I don't know because I was
19
looking at.
points,
Okay.
7 to 10 field goals, 5 of 6 from behind the arc,
Larry Nance banging home threes.
banging home threes. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what the Pelicans are gonna do. I mean, they're pretty. They might be your Memphis Grizzlies pick of the season, Mike.
I mean, I think if you're New Orleans, obviously nothing. I mean, they have to get healthy. The question is, at what point do you punt that season, especially in the Western Conference? I mean, you can't keep losing in the West and think that you're gonna be able to just climb up the standings from a spot where you're 10 games under 500 at the beginning of the season. And it's not like these injuries and guys that are out are day to day. I mean, you're talking about Zion is currently out indefinitely. And I mean, at this point, you're probably 2 weeks away from the Pelican season being, you know, functionally over. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do and if Zion can get healthy. And I think we're going to just continue to say that for the rest of his career. And then it goes back to if you're New Orleans, how do you trust it? How do you trust it that this guy plays 70 regular season games? Then can he ever make it through a 2 month gauntlet of NBA playoff basketball based on what we've seen? I mean, there's no evidence to show that that would ever be possible. So it'll be interesting to see as New Orleans moves forward whether or not they're ever willing to move off him. And if they are, who might be willing to take a chance on Zion Williamson that they could keep him healthy in their program? I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions.
Yeah. Uh, just we're recording this live. I don't know if you're paying any attention to the Mavericks Golden State game, but Klay Thompson's 3 of 4 from behind the arc, has 11 points halfway through the second quarter. Mike, is
There you
Klay
go.
Thompson playing better than you thought he would?
I mean, the Mavericks don't need him to do anything, right? I mean, they need him to just stand and shoot. And when you have two guys with the ability to break down a defense the way Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic can, that you don't need Klay to do much other than just stand outside the 3 point line and bang down threes. Now, it would be helpful if he was the Klay level defender of the championship Warriors. Obviously, after the knee injury and the Achilles, he's nowhere near that type of defensive player. So that's, I think, the challenge that comes for the Mavericks once we get to the playoffs is how many lineups can you play with Luka, Kyrie, and Klay Thompson out there defensively? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that his job on offense is super, super easy compared to what he had to do in Golden State to get open shots. And in Dallas, he can just stand on the 3 point line and slide into position, and Kyrie and Luka are going to find him.
Yeah. So another team that I don't know that they're really on your radar to talk about them, but I want to talk about Minnesota, Mike. What's Do you think Minnesota has any chance to compete for anything, or in the Western Conference? They're currently losing to Portland by 10.
I mean,
Okay, but
define compete for anything. I mean,
can they get to the
I had
Western Conference Finals, Mike?
I still think the answer to that is yes. I mean, I still think that the answer to that is yes because I just think that Anthony Edwards, you can believe or not believe in him at this moment of whether or not he's going to be a top 5 player in the league. And he's probably not at this point, but he's still 23 years old. And what's he shooting? Like 13 threes a game and he's making like 45% of them. And I guess the bigger factor is, right, do you believe in Minnesota? I still think that getting rid of Karl Anthony Towns was addition by subtraction. And Randall has, I don't want to say fit in seamlessly, but Randall's been fine there. I do think that they miss Cat's floor spacing in the regular season, but I don't think come playoff time, I don't think that the absence of Karl Anthony Towns is going to have any effect at all on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that their team is still a work in progress, trying to figure out how Randall fits in on the offensive end. Randall obviously isn't a plus defender. At best, he's probably neutral as a defensive player. So I think they're just still trying to work through that. And when you have a guy as good as Edwards, I think that gives you a puncher's chance. I look up and down the Western Conference, and what I see are a bunch of really, really good teams. But if you tell me in a 7 game series I have Anthony Edwards, I don't think there's a team in the Western Conference that I would say, oh, that team for sure is going to beat Minnesota and Anthony Edwards. I mean, I get what you're saying that they kind of scuffled here. And look, could Minnesota lose in the first round of the playoffs? Absolutely. But if you get the Anthony Edwards you got last year against Phoenix in the playoffs, that Minnesota team can beat anybody in the Western Conference. Now, I don't know that they have enough to win 3 series and get to the finals. But again, as I look up and down the West, I think there's a lot of teams that are good. I don't think there's any juggernaut teams.
Okay. I mean, you make a fair point. You make a fair assessment. I just don't know. Something's off with Minnesota. And I know there's an adjustment period, so maybe it's just that. But everything I've seen, like when I've seen stuff, like them losing to the Heat the other night, they lost to the Spurs last week. Something just something just isn't right with them, and I don't know what it is. I don't like. It's not the team that I want to say that I kind of fell in love with in the postseason last year. Like, it's something just seems weird, and I don't like Karl-Anthony Towns, so that can't be the reason.
I hope that's not it.
Although, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see him tonight when he got fouled and he like headbutted both Joel Embiid and Kelly Oubre? Kelly Oubre fouled him, and him fouling him like made like Karl-Anthony Towns like jar back, and he hit his head back, and Embiid's face was there, and Embiid got leveled, and then after he hit Embiid's face, he like pinballed his head back and hit Oubre right in the face. It was a good one. Karl-Anthony Towns trying to take out 2 Sixers players for them.
Did you see the stat where Karl-Anthony Towns was giving up 91% shooting when he was the nearest defender around the rim? Teams were shooting 91% when he was the nearest defender.
Well, that went down tonight since he was guarding Embiid for a lot of his minutes, and Embiid was 2 for 11, and
all right, well, there you go.
Embiid was 2 for 11 for 13 points, and he had 8 out of 8 from the free throw line. It's like,
Towns has been really good. Towns has been great offensively, and look, Embiid's going to take him a while to get back to whatever semblance of Joel Embiid we're going to get. We've spent so much time discussing Embiid. It's not even whatever. I don't even. He's not going to play tomorrow night probably against the Cavs anyway.
No,
right?
well, they said he wasn't going to play back to backs. So
right.
I mean, they haven't officially. What?
He said he wasn't playing back to back, so I'm pretty sure he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, when 3 minutes into the game, when he was walking back into the locker room, like
there are clouds everywhere. I would never want to build my team around Joel Embiid. That's a no thanks. And I would never want to build my team or even depend in any way, shape, or form on Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't care how good of an offensive player he is in the regular season. I don't care what kind of floor spacing he gives your offense. I just think he's not a winning player. I think he's a guy that just doesn't have, and I don't even want to say he has a low basketball IQ. It just feels like he makes dumb plays in big moments, and he just doesn't always understand what it is that needs to be done to help a team win. So I was ecstatic when the Knicks made that trade, and I think it weakened them significantly, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So I went from being, I guess, afraid of the Knicks because of Brunson and what he's been able to do the last 2 playoff runs to now I would have no fear of playing the New York Knicks as long as Karl-Anthony Towns is in the lineup and not injured.
Fair enough, Mike. Fair enough. All right. What other big things do we need to talk about?
We didn't even hit all the injuries because you got. I mean, if you just think about it around the league, and we don't have to discuss every one of these injuries, but I'm just looking at the Eastern Conference. I'm going down the list of teams. So the Celtics, you got no Porzingis. The Magic, you got no Paolo Banchero. The Knicks, you got no Mitchell Robinson. The Pacers have 2 centers that blew out their Achilles. Brooklyn, pretty healthy, feisty against the Cavs. Detroit, pretty healthy. Detroit, did you see that Jalen Green dunk on Cade Cunningham? Did you see that?
Yeah.
And then you saw the backstory of that, right?
No, I did not. What's the backstory? Fill me
There
in.
was some like I think it was during like an AAU tournament when they were in high school, and Cade Cunningham had a dunk, and Jalen Green must have been on the other team or in this on the bench for the other team. Like he was in like street clothes. He was wearing a jacket, and Cade Cunningham came over and like flicked him on the face, like flicked his chin after he did this dunk. And then the comment said Jalen Green's been waiting whatever 6 years for the opportunity to do that. That was a monstrous dunk that he had on Cade. But anyway,
Yeah,
Detroit's relatively healthy. Trae Young's out right now for the Hawks. The Heat, I don't know. Jimmy Butler didn't play today. I don't know what he is. I don't think he has a major injury, but he's kind of been day to day. Bulls are
timeoutitis.
relatively, maybe, maybe. Bulls are relatively healthy. Hornets relatively healthy. The Bucks are without Middleton. Wizards and whatever. The Sixers lost Tyrese Maxey this week, which again, on top of what's been going on with Embiid and Paul George, obviously a big piece of it. The Raptors had Emmanuel quickly out for like a week. I think he tweaked an ankle. I mean, it's
Cavs, you
crazy.
didn't say you. I will say you did not mention that their supposed fifth starter has been out all year.
I guess that's true. Yeah, the Cavs are missing Max Strus, which look, Strus is an important part of this team. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I
They've been
mean,
able to replace his production, but he's clearly an important part
well,
of
he's gonna open the
what
floor
they
up
do.
when he's on the floor. He's gonna open it
Yeah,
up.
I mean, and then out west, you got Ja out for Memphis with the whatever pelvic muscle strains and all the other things that we have going on. You mentioned AD. The Clippers obviously have Kawhi,
What
which
do
I
you
don't even know.
your take?
I don't even know.
Hot or cold take? AD refuses to play with glass like the shades. He refuses to play with the protective eye. It's like if I'm not good clear to play without him, I'm not playing with him. Playing.
I mean,
Is that
the
bad?
player in the player in me says that if my choice was don't play or play with a pair of glasses on, I think I would figure out a way to play with the pair of glasses on. But I'm also not a highly paid NBA player with a history of injury, so I don't know. But to me, it seems like if all you had to do was wear a pair of goggles and then it would be safe for you to play, then I don't see why you wouldn't do that. Now, maybe there's some other medical reason or some other risk that we're not aware of, but seems like if you could just wear the glasses, that you'd wear the glasses and go ahead and play. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just a ton of injuries around the league.
Durant.
So going back to the Cavs piece of it, right? They've been relatively healthy, and so that is without question a huge advantage.
For sure. What do you think's the biggest injury, Mike?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think the way the league is shaking out right now, I mean, the way it looks, you have to ask yourself, well, who are the real contenders? Who are the teams that have a real chance to win the title? And if you're looking at that, I mean, Porzingis is a big injury, even though I know he didn't get injured this season. But the fact that he's been out definitely has an impact on the Celtics, who are clearly the favorite in the league. I think the Chet injury is huge because you're talking about Oklahoma City. Everybody had them pegged as sort of the regular season wins champion, even though not everybody felt as confident in their ability to win an NBA championship. Almost universally, they were picked to win the Western Conference and to probably have the best record in the league. And
Is it
now
the
taking
Cavs? Are the Cavs the favorite now? I mean, I know it's early. Like,
to have the best record,
yeah.
no, I still think it's got to be Boston, probably.
Let's see. I don't think I have any sports betting props. I'll see if I can Google it while we're talking here.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, I guess I would say that if I look at the people that are hurt in the Eastern Conference, I think you have to say that it's Porzingis, Paolo, and then I guess you probably have to throw Embiid in there, right? Because clearly coming into the regular season or coming out of the offseason, Philly getting Paul George, having Embiid and Maxi back, everybody thought Philly was going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference. So I guess in the Eastern Conference, I'd say those three, and then In the West, you got Chet. Obviously, if Durant's out for a long period of time, that's going to be a huge blow to the Phoenix Suns. And I guess the same thing with Ja. If Ja's out for Memphis. So if I was going to pick probably the biggest impact right now on the regular season, I would probably say Chet, in all honesty, just because of what he means to Oklahoma City and the versatility that he gives them with his ability to space the floor and defend the rim at the other end. I don't know
All
how
right,
you feel about it. Is there
so FanDuel Sportsbook still has us at 55.5, Mike. 55
Okay.
and a half.
Okay.
Boston's at 58.5 still. Now, Eastern Conference winners. Celtics are the favorite. The Knicks are second. That's because that's where money's going, right? That's why they're
Yes.
second.
Look, there's no way. There's no way. This Knicks team, the way it's constituted, there's no way this Knicks team is an NBA Finals team. There is no way. From first of all, the cat factor, which we already talked about. Secondly, they have no depth whatsoever. Once you get beyond Deuce McBride, the Knicks bring nothing off their bench. So there's that piece of it. And I just don't think that this team, the way it's constituted, Mikal Bridges has been a little bit of a problem, not for opponents, but a little bit of a problem for the Knicks.
You mean you don't like
And
his shot? You don't like his shot, Mike?
he's going to have to play. But look, they traded 5 first-round picks for this guy. And he's been, I mean, at best, he's been a league average 3-and-D guy. And you gave up 5 number 1 picks for him. Now, we didn't talk at all Giannis trades or whether Giannis is eventually going to ask out of Milwaukee. They won tonight. But
I don't believe any of that. He's not leaving this year. Maybe next year. He's not leaving in the middle of the season.
yeah, I would find that hard to believe too, based on who he's been to this point in his career. But at some point, if you're him, you got to look around. And if they don't get this thing turned around to some degree, I know their schedule softens up significantly over the next 10 games or so. So we'll see how they do. They took care of business tonight against the Raptors.
Mike, they forget
But
they just flashed up all the injuries in the NBA, and they had all the guys we mentioned, and then they had Kawhi Leonard. I'm like, come on now, Kawhi Leonard.
well, can you just let's just go back to your comment, whatever, last week or 2 weeks ago. Can we just mark Kawhi Leonard as retired, and that if he ever plays again, it'll be him coming out of retirement instead of him coming off the injured list? I think that's how you have to look at Kawhi Leonard. I think that's the right approach with him.
Yeah. All right. I'm pulling up. I don't think the odds I was looking at were the most are the most like season wins. Here we go. No, team win streak. I don't want that. Get out of here, that. Team futures. Maybe that's it. Oh, winter special. Oh, no. I was hoping that I could find what FanDuel or what DraftKings, because DraftKings totals have to be on here somewhere, but I can't find it. I'm curious, like, what team would have the most wins if we were to redo it now, like right this minute. I find it hard to believe that, like,
It would be Boston. It'd be Boston because I think Oklahoma City without Chet and with the Western Conference being so much better than the Eastern Conference, I think it would probably be the Celtics. I think it would be the Celtics 1. I think it would probably be the Cavs 2, and I think it would probably be Oklahoma City 3rd, is the way I would look at it.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, so DraftKings is saying that we're going to get to 15 wins in a row because right now the longest regular season win streak you could bet on it right now. 15 plus games, it's minus 125. That means that they're banking on us getting to 15 wins based on the schedule.
They should. I mean, they should. They should go into that Boston game 15-0. If they don't, one of those losses will be a disappointing loss because it's not like those games are back to back or you have a day off in between each of those games, and you're playing teams that you're clearly better than. Tomorrow you're
Yeah.
playing Philly coming off a game that they played tonight. They're probably going to be without Embiid unless he breaks his own statement of I'm not going to play back to backs. So yeah, the Cavs should go into that 15-0. I got one more thing for you. I don't know if
Okay,
you have
good.
anything else that you had on your list, but I just have one more thing. We talked last week. I think Denver was sitting at 2-2, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago, and we were in a little bit of panic mode for our Halloween episode and said that the Nuggets' performance to that point had been a little bit scary, that maybe they were letting Joker's prime go to waste in this season. But I mean, Nikola Jokic, holy cow, what this guy has been doing. So I have his stat page pulled up on ESPN.com. And when you go on any other team's stat page, you have a different leader in most of the categories on the team. Team leaders for the Denver Nuggets: Nikola Jokic, 29.7 points per game. Rebounds, 13.7 points per game. Assists, 11.7 assists per game. Steals per game, 1.7. Blocks per game, 1.0. Not like he's swatting away a ton of shots, but nonetheless, he is the Nuggets leader in blocks. I read something, I think it was on Twitter yesterday, that Jokic may not end up having the highest average points per game, rebounds per game, or assists per game, but because of his durability and the fact that he's probably going to play 75 plus games, that there is a very, very good chance that he could potentially lead the league in total points, total rebounds, and total assists. And that is, first of all, an unbelievable statistic. Secondly, going into this season, the narrative around Jokic was that he was probably done winning MVPs simply because he had won 3 and 4 years, and the bar had then been set to a point where it was so ridiculously high that it was somebody else's turn to win. I mean, where Jokic is at right now, and if Denver can stay in the top four in the West, I mean, he's hands down the MVP, right? At this point.
I think. I mean, I would guess so. I don't know who else it would be.
Tatum's kind of cooled off a little bit. He didn't play very well tonight. Giannis has had an unbelievable start to his season. Giannis is averaging 31 and a half, 13
His team's
rebounds.
pitiful.
Right. Shooting 60% from the field, but his team's pitiful. Shea's been good, but he's been statistically worse than he was last year. Embiid is obviously no longer in the discussion.
Donovan Mitchell,
There's
number 5 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, that's fine, but Mitchell's not going to put up the kind of counting stats that he's going to need in order to be able to win an MVP. I don't care if the Cavs go 65 and whatever. There's no way that Mitchell, with the statistics that he has right now, is going to be winning the MVP. I mean, I think the favorite, right, coming into the season was Luka, and Luka has been, for him, I would say, subpar, especially when it comes to his shooting. So Luka's right now averaging 28 a game, which is down from, I think, last year he was at maybe just a shade under 34. He's only averaging 8 assists, so he's like almost 4 behind per game. Jokic, um, Lively's leading them in rebounds with 8.2, but Luka's shooting has been really bad. He's shooting 41% from the field and 33% from three, which, I mean, 41% from the floor is pretty inefficient for a guy that is normally as efficient as Luka. So he's been off to, I would say, a cold start. That's not to say that he can't right the ship, but man, I mean, if Jokic keeps going this direction, this would probably be the biggest landslide MVP vote that we've had in a while. If he really leads the league in total points, total assists, and total rebounds, that is ridiculously insane.
I agree. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
And does it on a team that for the last 3 years has progressively the roster has gotten worse around him every year since the championship team. So for him to carry the Nuggets, if he gets them to the top 4 and the statistics stay where they are, I mean, the MVP is going to be a runaway, and he's going to have won 4 in 5 years. You're talking about an all-time great player, which is when you look at him and you look at his body type, it's nothing short of, I don't want to say miraculous, but I mean, it's incredible what the guy is doing. It's just, he's just a basketball savant in every single way.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't know. It is pretty crazy, the stats he's put up, and like you said, the bar theoretically set so high, but at the same time, he's right there now. I mean, he's doing so well. So, and it's still crazy to me that he's gonna end by far with more MVPs than LeBron. LeBron was robbed, man. I could keep saying that. He was robbed that Derrick Rose year.
Yeah,
He was robbed.
The Derrick Rose year was definitely
the one.
Was
well,
definitely
even
one
the
that
one
probably
Steve
should've gone.
Nash year was robbed.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Look,
Steve Nash winning
you
back
could
to
probably-
back. Give me a break.
You could probably make a case for that. You could probably make a case for LeBron in a couple other years, but I mean, there's no denying what Jokic has done and how good he's been.
Well, no, and I
There's
wasn't
no-
trying to say. I'm not trying to diminish
I
Jokic. I'm just
understand.
saying.
No, I understand. I get.
Jokic
I get
isn't
exactly
going
what you're
down
saying.
as the second greatest player in NBA history. I think I feel pretty comfortable in saying that he's not going to come down as the second greatest player. Could he go in the top 10? I think so, but I don't think he's the second.
If he wins four MVPs in 5 years, he's going to be in the top. He's going to be in the top 10. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I think he crashes that party. Obviously, he's only got one title, but man, what he's doing statistically and his impact on teams, I mean, there's no denying how good this guy is. I mean, he's incredible. He's incredible to watch.
Yeah.
Just somebody that any player would love to be able to play with the guy because he just is efficient. He shares the ball. He understands the game, and you need a big play in a big moment, and somehow it may not always be beautiful in the athletic sense that we often think about with NBA players, but I don't know if there's ever been anybody in the game with a better touch and better hands around the basket, and to be honest, anywhere on the court than what Jokic has. He's just an incredible joy to watch.
Yep. Anything else, Mike?
No, we hit on all the major topics that I wanted to hit on. So unless you have something, I think we can probably end it there.
I got nothing. I didn't intend to stay up and watch the end of this game, but I'm probably going to now. So we'll see.
There you go. I'm probably going to do the same while I'm trying to get the episode ready for release in an hour or two. So we appreciate everyone checking out tonight's NBA episode of the Hoopheads podcast. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. All right.
All righty.
That was a good episode. That was fun.
That was good.
Yeah, I like that one.
That was good.
Man. Well, it's easy for me to pick out the photo. I know it's going to be a Cavs photo. I think it'll be 2 weeks in a row for 2 weeks in a row with a Cavs photo. So
see what happens next week.
We'll see if we can get another one.
Yeah.
So,
all righty. I'm going to go to bed.
Sounds like a plan.
I've had conferences the last 2 days. I'm exhausted, so and
it's completely understandable, my friend.
All righty. I'll talk to you.
All right, brother. All right, man. Thanks, Jay.
Later.
We'll talk.
Bye.
Bye.